You were talking about
And
how when you digest the plants, you're almost digesting the information as well.
yeah, and all the thoughts and feelings associated. That's what I was going to talk about, actually. I was just going to say that I was reading something on Twitter the other night where somebody was talking about human emotions and how they get in the way of reason. And my response to that was, when did human emotion become the enemy?
Right.
When did, you know, human emotion is such an incredible tool for giving information about the world and what's happening in it. And it is just as important as reason. And also it is there for a reason. It isn't there to irritate reason. It's there to work alongside it. And for anyone who's ever done any serious self-awareness work will know that the work is very hard and comes at a cost. But when you reach a certain level with it, when you are able to recognize your own responses to things and watch yourself, that it becomes an incredibly powerful tool for understanding anything. And so I just think this is a very interesting, because with the crop circles, I think our first response is always an emotional one, that they do have this ability to evoke very powerful feelings. I've known people walk into crop circles and just burst into tears just for the beauty of it and moved in a very deep way by it. And that is a brilliant illustration of how powerful these things are and the power that they have to change people and move them, in this very deep way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard people. Have you heard of Jimmy Blanchette?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So Jimmy is, and so is Gary Osborn, who's done some great work on the
Yeah.
Rendlesham UFO incident, the binary code. But these guys are continually finding things, connections, and they're using mathematics to try and prove it, but they keep coming up with new things. And Robert Edward Grant even said something a while back, I think, to Manu Saves the Day, who's an Egyptologist. And he said, because I have to stop telling everybody about these discoveries I'm making because they'll stop listening to me because there's so many of them. And I think that's one of the things here. You're never going to stop discovering these little mathematical connections or these synchronicities. It's ongoing. You're never going to get to the bottom of it. You're just going to keep making connections until you realize one of the overarching themes is to just get you thinking and get you shaking up the way you're thinking and getting you out of this sort of, like we talked about, like this linear style of thinking and getting you into this other way.
Yeah, again, the crop circle season can often feel like a dream. It very much operates in that way where different formations happen in different places and you make these connections and it becomes a narrative, almost dreamlike. But again, it's fairy glamour in a way, because the big underlying thing is for you to see that there are these connections, for you to develop that sense of that there is something, this golden thread that connects everything. And when you can dip in and out of it and there are things to be learned from it. Yeah, the mathematics that Jimmy Blanchette, it's way over my head. I have only a rudimentary understanding of it. But again, it's not the specifics of it, I think, that's important. Although I'm sure they are important to the people that are making them. But the overall thing is this idea of everything is connected and that you are not separate from everything around you. You are absolutely one and a part of the same thing.
Very cool. I wanted to maybe go to another formation. You just sent me
Yeah.
this one right before we were talking, and you did some geometry on this as well. I want to pull this one up here. Hey guys, if you've been watching this podcast for a while, then you already know I'm absolutely fascinated by the crop circle phenomenon. It's one of those mysteries that keeps pulling me in deeper the more I explore it. That's why I'm really excited about a collaboration between shapesofwisdom.com and Curious Dimension podcast. Shapes of Wisdom is a sanctuary for seekers of ancient knowledge and sacred symbolism. They've curated an inspiring collection of sacred geometry and esoteric art that aligns beautifully with the themes we often explore here on Curious Dimension. On their website, shapesofwisdom.com, you'll find thousands of different crop circle designs. Yes, thousands. Available on posters, t-shirts, jewelry, even coloring books. Whether you're into meditative art, symbolic meaning, or just want to surround yourself with something a little otherworldly, It's an amazing resource. Shapes of Wisdom and Curious Dimension have come up with 4 different t-shirt designs that invite you to explore the unknown and wear your curiosity proudly. And as a special thank you to our listeners, you can get 15% off your Curious Dimension t-shirts and Shapes of Wisdom apparel clothing purchases by using the promo code Curious1 at checkout. That's CURIOUS1 at checkout. Plus, if you're into digital art or want access to some of the most stunning crop circle visuals, use promo code Curious2 for 40% off the crop circle collections and big picture digital files available through the Curious Dimension link on shapesofwisdom.com. I'll drop all the links and codes in the description below so you don't miss a thing. So if you're drawn to sacred geometry, ancient symbols, or just want to wear your curiosity, go check them out. Again, that's shapesofwisdom.com. Now let's dive back into today's episode.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, tell us, when did this one show up and what's going on here?
Okay, so this is a really high spot in Wiltshire, as you can tell. It's a place called Martinsell Hill. It is one of the highest spots in Wiltshire. I think maybe this was 2009, I think, actually. And as you can see here, you've got this beautiful field of wheat here. And then next door to it, you've got pasture or grassland. And you can see that whatever is going on with this formation, it is crop specific. Back to that again, that only the wheat has been affected. What was interesting about this was that dowsers who went up there said that they could sense the field, the dowsing field of the rest of that formation in the grass, even though it wasn't there. It wasn't the grass wasn't disturbed in any way, which I thought was very interesting. So energetically, it was all there.
Wow.
But it was only, it seemed crop specific. It is actually one of my all-time favorite crop circles. I just love it. It isn't. The other thing that crop circles do is they create this incredible sense of drama, and which is Steve has picked up here in his photograph, this incredibly dramatic kind of occurrence here that gives that sense of urgency and importance to it. Again, it's going back to how does this picture make me feel when I look at it? Because if I can look at how I feel about it, I can maybe look at the way that it's affecting me. So yeah, this was just, and again, just being at a high spot as well, where when you're actually stood up there, you can just see for miles. And I would imagine probably when this was photographed, Steve, would probably be about 200 feet above this formation.
Oh, wow.
So
flying
it was
pretty low there.
Yeah. But it gives you an idea of how big it, and you can see how many tractor lines this goes over. So I think the minimum tractor line is around about 60 feet.
Okay.
And then the maximum is about 100, and each one differs. There's no uniformity to the booms that the tractors use for spraying the crops. Because obviously in the UK, we spray from the ground. We don't spray from the air.
So this is probably over an American football field in length.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez Louise, it's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. Yeah.
And I find it interesting that whoever put this down, they left it only in the crop, and they left it, that line there where the grass is, they left it alone. But yet you said the dowsers went in there and they were still picking up the energetic field as if it were there.
Yes. Yeah.
That is so wild. Did you do some geometry on this one?
No, it's actually one I've never drawn.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe I'll have to now.
Yeah. The other picture, this is the one you sent me. You did some geometry on this one here. Is this correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so this is not my geometry. This is a geometry of Michael Glickman, the late research Michael Glickman. And one of the things that Michael showed in his geometric work with the crop circles was this idea of a hidden geometry. So this is the one we looked at canola at Barbary.
The first one, yeah.
97 years. And when you look at this is 6 crescent moons. The geometry as you see it is sixfold, but there is the proportioning of that central ring there, and that is proportioned by 5-fold geometry. So the relationship between the diameter of that central ring and then the diameter around the whole of the design is a 5-fold relationship. This is, again, it's another one of those multivalent layers in the crop circles where it's not just about what, it's also about what you don't see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much going on here. It really does seem like you're just scratching the surface
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this. And like I said before, I think these guys and girls or whoever's studying this and the UFO phenomenon, they're never going to stop discovering mathematical connections, synchronistic connections. That's the point. It's like this
Yeah.
endless rabbit hole that balances out the mind. And I think that the hoaxing part of it, I think that's part of it because I don't think you want like the entire planet coming together around this because then you're going to have cancerous aspects of it pop up where people they worship it too much and then it misses the point. And if there is some sort of natural balance of consciousness going on here, it's most likely aware of that in some strange way and is doing things in a way that what you would only do it gently. You would have certain select people be the communicators of this, and only certain people that are ready to hear it would hear it.
Yeah.
Um, oh,
Yeah, I do. I really do feel that. I think if you're ready for this, you'll find it. And again, it's like he said, but there will always be more layers to peel away. It's the never-ending onion. And but again, you look at the idea of hidden layers or geometry, and it becomes a metaphor for reality. That there are hid both I call it esoteric and exoteric geometries, but there is the world that you see around you, and then there is the world that is unseen also there. That part of reality where synchronicities and dreams hold sway, that to which we are all connected in some way. And it always has seemed to me that's been another central message of the phenomenon is, that reality is multi-layered and that you are connected to all of those layers, whether you know it or not.
yeah, it certainly seems that way. That's an amazing sentiment. Karen, I wanted to go over maybe some of the newer ones that have popped up.
Yep.
And I know you've done a little bit of geometry with some of those because the 2025 season. Let me ask you this question before we go there.
Okay.
How do you see like the crop circles that have come up this season? Have there been a lot this season or has it been normal over the last decade or so? Because I know at one point there was a lot of these popping up all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so how does this season compare to past seasons?
Okay, so I think the height of the crop circle phenomenon was around 2009. That year was just we had so many circles that year we couldn't keep up with it. We were just spinning. And then it's gone in bell curves up and down. 23 and 24 were quite quiet years, particularly last year. But this year we're on another uptick. They've been more around. They've been in different places as well. For instance, we've had none in Hampshire this year, which is quite strange because the last few years we've had quite a lot in Hampshire. So this year we've had quite a few in Somerset, in Dorset, one into Devon. So there've been a lot there. There've been some in Wiltshire, but not as many as there would have been in years gone by. So I think overall there is a slowing down, definitely, of it. But I do think that the ones that are still happening are still as rich. They might not be as huge, they may not be as dramatic, but they are still rich in layers and what can be discovered and worked on in them. So yeah, I think it does. I remember in 1993 was a very slow year, and then 94 we had the uptick with the thought bubble formations that we were looking at the beginning. So yeah, it does go up and down, but yes, we have had an uptick this year, which it's been great. It's been a nice season. I've Nice, that's a horrible word, isn't it? But it's been a good season. It's been interesting, and there's been lots that I'm still working on. I've not only just begun really working on formations from this year, so I think I'm going to have a busy winter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gotta be part of it. It's almost like breathing. You have to take it all in, and then you need time to process this because if you have a season where there's just 3 or 4 every day popping up, you can't go visit them all.
No,
You can't and especially in the '90s, like, you can't do the geometry of all like, we didn't have the internet like it is today. We didn't have all
no,
the computer programs where you can analyze these things in less than a few hours and then put it out there for everyone to see. So you need time to breathe and take it all in because there's an endless amount of information that's coming out of these things.
Already, just with the formations that we've had over the last 30 years, there is more than a lifetime's work in them. To really squeeze the juice out of them, it's more than a lifetime's work. There are thousands, and and each one there will be something to learn from, and so you have to pick the ones that speak to you, and then you have to lay aside the rest because there's no way you would ever get through all of them.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question before we go on to this one that I want to get to next. There's this sort of sentiment among different researchers that the real phenomenon cooled off years ago. And a lot of what people are seeing, and there's two questions I have here. A lot of what people are seeing now are land artists going out there and making them, which we know is a thing, right? We know people
Yeah.
can go out there and make really good ones. That's been proven. So that's my first question. Was there a time that there it maybe cooled off and what we're seeing today is more land artists? And I forget where I was going with the second question. What do you have to say to
Okay.
that?
Um, I was actually talking about this to a group of researchers yesterday. We were talking about people that had left the subject matter, people that had done really great work in it and then had left. And we were saying that a lot of people said, "Oh, everything after 2012 is no good anymore," but 2012 just happened to be the year that they left the phenomenon. It's I don't know. I don't think that there's any evidence that's the case. I think again, this it's like with all of these subject matters, wherever you're coming up against something, a mystery or something that's unknown, people go through a process with them, and then they either decide that I call it the crossroads, that you come to a point where you decide, am I going to carry on any further than this? What do I really think about this? How do I feel about it? And then do I want to continue? Do I believe in this anymore or whatever? And some choose to leave, and I think that's fine. But I don't think proof is something that are always looking for. It's the never ending quest, isn't it? It's a bit like with the UFO thing. People are looking for that smoking gun that's going to give them the satisfaction of being able to prove to everybody who thinks that they're a crank that, that the thing was real and that they were justified. And of course it never works like that. So I don't think there were the years when the scientific sampling was happening, and that was a really great indicator that there was something that was going on but I don't really think that the formations themselves have substantially changed in the way that they look or present themselves or in any other way. So I don't, I just don't go along with that. I think that to me, this is just a continuation of the way that it's always been with the phenomenon, and that people make their choices and their decisions based on their own experience. And that's fine. I think there's room to believe whatever you want about this. And I always say this to people, that I'm not a crop circle evangelist. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I find this personally interesting, and interesting enough that I want to spend my time working on it and looking into it. And I enjoy speaking to other researchers and what they make of it. And long may it be the same. And as you said, if you proved it all tomorrow, and you had thousands of people turning up every time a crop circle happened, it would just be chaos. I remember particularly in that 2009 year around, that you would get coach loads of people turning up to go into a crop circle. And very often some of them would not be big enough to accommodate everybody.
Right.
And they would go in, and they would get trampled, and people would not walk up the tractor lines. They would walk through the farmers' field. That it was just chaos. You can understand why farmers get as irritated as they do. So I think, I'm always think very carefully about things now. If there's a formation that really speaks to me, that I really feel that I want to go and see, then I think about how am I going to do that and how am I going to approach it. But yeah, you wouldn't want thousands of people turning it. It would be chaos, and it would ruin the very thing that they came to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. I want to turn now to maybe maybe we have time for maybe one more formation here. I want to look at one of these ones that came up. I think it was in May, one of the first ones that came up, which was really interesting. Let's take a look here. All right, let me know when you can see this one.
Yep, I can see it now.
Okay.
Yep, so this crop circle was at a place called Sutton Valley, which is in Wiltshire. And it happened in mid-May this year, May the 15th. Yeah.
Interesting. And did you do some geometry on this one?
Yeah, yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it this one?
Yeah, so that's the painting I did of it. And I think there is another one that illustrates the geometry in it.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And so explain to me what you've done here.
okay. So first of all, I've drawn the outline of the crop circle in pencil. And then what I've done is put a tracing paper overlay and drawn the geometry that holds the design together. So what you can see here is that the width of the outer band there is guided or proportioned by an octagram, an 8-sided figure here. So this formation is about the square and the octagram. So you can see that also the ring that contains the inner knot pattern work there is also proportioned by an octagram there. So you have a circle that you draw around the outside, a circle that you draw around the inside, and that gives you the width of the band. And then, of course, the squares then proportion the rest of it. And this is to me, this is a poetry, a geometric poetry, where you've got squares and octagrams working together to proportion the whole design. And it's where you have geometry like this, although you can't see it, that you sense the harmony of it. You look at it, it looks right, and it looks graceful and well proportioned, all of those things, because it is. And the Celtic knotwork there in the middle is beautiful. So four semicircles, and then the square make up the knotwork in the middle, which was really delicately done. It was in the field. This wasn't a huge formation, but it was really well done. And in fact, I think the other week it's still there in the field. It's very worn now, but the farmer has left it in. And obviously he must have had a trickle of visitors coming to see it throughout the summer to leave it there. And he was great, the farmer, because he turned a negative into a positive. And I think he raised some money from allowing people to visit it. So that's very cool. And as I say, I fully understand why the farmers get so irritated by this. And it's not just the appearance of the formation itself, it's then all the people that want to come and see it. And that takes some time out of their schedule to organize that and to keep it all organized. But I think it's wonderful that this farmer was able to find a way of, as I say, turning something that at first might be seen as a negative into something that is more positive for him.
Very cool. I had a question for you. And I don't know, I know there's lots of people online that do the geometry of these very quickly. Has anyone done any squaring of the circle with this one, like by taking the center of the four corners of the inner square there and taking a compass? Do you know if anybody's done that?
Yeah, I think there's a researcher called Peter Vandenberg, and he does this pretty quick because he works on a computer. He draws all these up in CAD on a computer. And yes, it does. I think this squares the circle more than once. So yeah, it is in there. Yeah.
Very interesting. It's like you can see an artist going out there making these things, but then to find all these other geometric connections in there, it's always fascinating to see that because like you said, it creates this aesthetic beauty that speaks to people in a very subtle way, yet undeniably beautiful and connects with people's minds. And that's probably because our minds are set up geometrically to recognize patterns it's most likely a leftover thing from when we were in survival mode, living out there. We could recognize patterns right away. It helped us survive, but it's still a deep part of our psyche. And when we recognize this stuff, it speaks to us, and it's extremely powerful.
It is. And I do think with this that we talked about beauty a lot, beauty speaks to the heart, and it's the thing that gets us connecting on a heart level with something, whether it's the beauty of a child's face or anybody's face or whatever, we are drawn to it. But it's not something through the intellect. The geometry like this that you can see here is intellect. But the way that geometry makes you feel, it's a heart connection. And again, it's that idea of connecting with more than just the head. This is more than just dopamine for the brain. It's more than that quick thrill, if you like, of the intellect. That there's something on a heart level here, which is interesting, isn't it? Because geometry is the bridge between that. And again, we talk about truth, beauty, and goodness, Plato's ideas. That's what's needed to nourish the human being and to make them feel whole. And these formations do that somehow.
Yeah. I'm just going to tie one last thing here. We can wrap it up, Karen. I know there was more pictures we wanted to go through, and maybe we could schedule another time to talk about those.
No, nobody knows, but I think that when obviously part of my own personal background is in psychotherapy, and I have a particular fondness for Jung, and this idea of wholeness is something that we need to learn to nurture much more. If we're more whole as human beings, we really truly understand ourselves, we'll make a better world. The world reflects our interior in a way. And I think the world that we live in now is we are so disconnected. And while things like that we're able to chat here today because of technology, and it's fantastic that we can do that. But at the same time, for other people, this is their only way of having a human interaction, which is incredibly sad. We can't create those bonds, those emotional bonds to people in the ways that we used to be able to do that. The pandemic taught us that, didn't it? How depressed and so on, that it made people feel great despair, I think, at times. And because of that lack of human contact and contact just with the world in general, it's done with something real. There's this great story. I must just tell you this before we finish.
Yes.
One of the first machines that was ever invented by man was the shadoof, which is this essentially a water pump that you would use at the side of a river or a stream to pump water from the river out so that you could distribute it. And this was known about in ancient Egyptian days, but for a very long time, even though they knew the technology, they didn't use it. And they didn't use it because the priests of ancient Egypt thought that it was good for people to go in the river and get their water and be connected to that whole process. So they didn't allow the use of it. They thought it was unspiritual in some way. And I think there's something to be learned from that technology becomes something between you and somebody else. When it works really well, it connects people and it's wonderful. But a lot of the time, it can also be that thing that gets between us and somebody else, and also disconnects us from the way in which nature works and operates in the real world. And I love that story because I think we need to be, especially I think in a world where we're now on the verge of getting to grips with some serious artificial intelligence, that this is a really pressing issue that people really need to think about how we're going to integrate this into our lives in a positive way and not in a negative one.
Karen, that was an amazing story. I think it's a great way to wrap this up. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I really enjoy these conversations. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate it. Can you tell people about your website? I've got your book behind me. Tell people where they can find your stuff.
Yep. So you can find us and just about everything we do on our website, which is www.temporarytemples.co.uk. I can tell people that we have an online conference coming up in October, which will happen every weekend throughout October. And that this year we're going to be doing it for free. And so if you want to hear more about that, you can sign up for our newsletter, and that will tell you once I've got all the information together where they can get in touch with us for that. And we also have a new yearbook coming out. We're desperately playing catch up at the moment. So our 2022 edition is about to come out in the next month or so. So keep an eye out for that on the website as well.
Very cool. I'll put links for all that in the description below. I want to thank everybody for checking out the podcast. You guys have a great day. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.